Well, it's time that we let go of that heavy week that brought us here to this night. It is Michaelmas, ushering in for Archangel Michael and his glorious hosts, the joy of God and the wonder of creation. I have found in my own life that the world, and even people that I know, either find themselves stimulated by the topic of angels, or rather indifferent. And I think if we look in our lives, we can kind of realize that that is due to a lack of interest or investigation when we are indifferent. And I can look at my own life and find many times in that outer world where I have been, without seeking, shall we say, and maybe missing certain opportunities of upliftment around me, that really I have to be attuned to with spiritual eyes to get the spiritual help that is needed into my life. I mean, just listen to that music we heard already this evening. When we hear new music, it has an opportunity to uplift us. Are we interested enough to seek that in our life? There are wonderful books that are there to inspire us. What are we doing to reach out and garner the words and seeds that are lifting us forward? And Flowery Newhouse once said that beautiful regions remain to be seen. Yet until we develop more curiosity and adventure, we might never see them. So much remains out of our experience because of a lack of constructive desire to know more. What is beyond the veil of our understanding or consciousness that ultimately opens a new door of discovery for each of us. But nothing we miss on the outer planes at all compares to what we miss on the inner planes when we are not looking. Perception of realities that we can only reach and see and perceive through our spiritual senses. And one of the greatest of these, and why we have gathered this night, is the reality of the angel kingdom. And to do this, for each of us, we have to almost prime our consciousness. We have to be looking for their activity in our lives. We have to open ourselves to their reality. And when we are seeking, do we feel or see their activity in our lives? And when I say feel, I'm really speaking to how our soul kind of brings things through us. It's not emotion, but it's through intuition. And while we may not have inner sight as yet to see them, maybe there's visions that we get at times, have any of us not felt their activity and presence in our lives? When I asked myself that very question, I thought immediately of a moment where I was in Canada, actually, at Niagara Falls on the Canadian side, and a very high tourist area, so you can imagine lots of lights and action. But there was this place that you can go very close to the visitor center, which takes you just feet from where part of the waterfall is cresting the edge and falling. And there's this big plume of mist that goes out and many rainbows are seen. And you have to kind of wait your turn before you get that opportunity to be there. And catching me a little bit by surprise in this obviously beautiful nature setting, but in a very commercial area, all the world dropped away. All the noise of the people got lost in the sound of the water falling and crashing in the rocks below. And there I became aware of a great presence I couldn't see, but I knew that was before me. And I felt like kneeling in honor of that glorious beacon of light in this part of the world, in the noise and the chaos that is going. What a lesson it was for my own life to let that outer drop away and try to tune in to those presences that are there all before me. I think it was Jacob Amy, a Christian mystic, who said, yes, heaven and angels do exist, but they are not separated from the material world. They impenetrate and surround humanity and nature. The holy angels converse and walk up and down in the innermost parts of the world. And I experienced that at that one sacred place. And I could go on and on about other moments of feeling such a place. And we have that opportunity tonight in this dedicated sacred chapel. Do we see evidence of the activity of angels in our life? Well, when I asked myself that question, I immediately thought back to when I was 18. And while I believed in angels, I don't think my life was riddled with moments and experiences of their activity. But I had just picked up a coworker and was driving he to work before going to school myself, when a car pulled out in front of me. And it was the first real accident that I had ever been in. And you have to understand, this was the morning traffic right in front of a high school, San Marcos High School. Busy traffic, and a car pulled out and just stopped. And I had no time. I hit my brakes and started sliding into oncoming traffic. And I really felt, I was not driving that car. And pretty soon, when the dust settled after watching someone walking across the walkway across the street in the crosswalk, and the oncoming cars screeching to their halt, I landed 180 degrees turned in the turn lane. And I could never have done that on my own. And my poor passenger, I don't think ever rode with me again. But for me, I realized I am not alone. And if I'm going to rely on this sheath of my humanness to get me through life, I'm going to be in trouble. It was a first moment where you have to release everything and become part of the activity of God. And I'm ever grateful for that moment and that realization. I know when Billy Graham was working on his book, particularly with Scripture and the Bible, and the evidence of angels, he found himself really drawn into that topic. And in his own words, he said, involved in one of the most fascinating and thrilling projects of my life. Dr. Graham mentioned in his book on angels that even Moses was held in speechless wonder at his introduction to angels. And I know it's easy to get lost when we're reading the Bible or any other wonderful holy book, which, by the way, all have references to angels in them across all faiths, talking about higher beings. It really transcends us. Just the two examples I shared in my own life tonight, those were transcending moments. My whole consciousness was taken outside of the outer world to an interactivity that I wasn't looking at before. And so I think our challenge and why we come tonight is to, in our consciousness here and now, honor them, awaken to them, and come to a greater realization how we can work with them to lift up all life.